Optical color mixing. Squint your eyes and look at this painting. It'll look smoother, more realistic. When you squint, it's kind of like looking at it from a distance. We know that there's more detail the closer you are, then the farther you get, there's less detail, so it'll be kind of a blurring happening whether you're squinting your eyes or getting some distance from it. So these separate colors that we're seeing up close will blend together at a distance or with the squinty eyes. We can see it at a distance on the left. So it still has sort of a pixelated, kind of like a video screen look to it, or a computer screen. But it's everything's coming together more because of the distance. And then on the right we see that all these colors, when you get really close, you see all these separate colors. And this kind of happens when we look at the separate colors of the stripes. You got striped warm red and yellow, making an orange, and striped blue and yellow, making this pastel-y blue, and the red and blue making a violet. This is optical color mixing. That's what we were looking at with the painting that we were just looking at by Chuck Close of the face. And it's what's happening in all the examples we'll be looking at in this slide presentation. It's a phenomenon that happens when a viewer perceives two or more colors that are positioned near each other as one color. The color gets mixed in the eye rather than physically. Another place where we see optical color mixing is the halftone printing process, like for magazines, newspapers, and even art books. But as you can see, the art book quality has more dots, so it's similar to a higher resolution image with pixels. And then this is the highest resolution that we have here in this example. And then the cheaper books, less expensive books, will have less dots. Photography was invented in the mid-19th century, 1800s, and then Impressionism followed, greatly influenced by the advent of photography. Photography gave painters freedom to play around with their representation rather than just creating realistic representations. They were freed up to experiment because photography was already creating realistic images, so this let them try other things. So Impressionism and other modern art movements following that were greatly influenced by the existence of photography. They wanted to show their brush strokes and show their process of painting. That was interesting to them. And they were interested in changing qualities of light due to the passage of time or weather conditions. And this was made possible to go out and paint for hours outdoors because their paint started to be manufactured in tubes, so they could just put a bunch of tubes in a sack or some other kind of carrying case and take it with them and close it up with the cap on the tube, and so they could use it later. And being outside allowed them to observe changes in the atmosphere. All right, let's look at Claude Monet's haystacks. Observe the brush strokes Let's look at all the colors that we can see in each part of the painting. Think about what time of day it might be. What kind of time of year would it be, or temperature outside. All right, how does this one feel? We have this one, and then there's a whole bunch together, but this one feels, maybe as far as time of day, maybe this is sunset. So, you know, after 5 p.m. After dinner, or you know, after the afternoon. And then yeah, we see all kinds of violets and oranges, greens. So we see all these individual brush strokes coming together to create an impression. Okay, here we have a bunch of them. So we can see that Claude was out there painting haystacks in all kinds of weather, all different times of day, taking in all the different colors that could happen with the same subject depending on what's going on in the atmosphere. I see what looks like winter time, maybe autumn, time of day, you know, longer shadows. The sun is either rising or going down. So maybe that's, I would guess that feels kind of, this could be sunset or sunrise, but for some reason I'm thinking sunset, and this feels like sunrise, like this sun feels like it's coming up, but you know, it could be the opposite. This feels, some of these feel very summery, some very wintry, some maybe in between, autumnal or spring-like. But it's interesting to see all the different colors that resolved. We have purples, and a lot of purples in this one, and much more greens in this one. And some of them, this has no green at all that I can see. Maybe a little bit in the hay itself. Yeah, I think there's some touches of green in there. But yeah, pretty cool. Okay, some more Impressionism examples. Look at the quality of light. You really get a feel for it being outdoors. The light is more diffuse, it's softer, more gradual variations in color. This is a famous picture by Renoir. Okay, here's a detail. Think about how it's similar to Monet's haystacks and how it's different. They both Renoir and Monet used optical color mixing to convey the complexity of outdoor lighting and the atmosphere. Let's look at all the colors that make up the dress. And there, you'll notice there's a difference as far as brush strokes. Monet's brush strokes look more separate, with lots of colors layered on top, and Renoir's are more blending. They're more blending into each other. So here's a dress detail with all these different colors happening. Then there's pointillism. You can think of it as little dots of color. So it also uses optical color mixing, but with more dotty. And they were trying to keep it optical, so keep the mixing just in the eye as much as possible. So here is Seurat. This is like a textbook example of pointillism. And you can see all the little dots. We'll look at a detail of the dress here and the cast shadow of the dress. So in the cast shadow we see green, blue, red. mainly. And on the dress we see pale, muted reds and violets and some warm chromatic grays. Another example from Seurat. Okay, and then there's post-impressionism, starting in the late 19th century. It became more subjective. Van Gogh is a prime example. So yeah, expression. It's more expressive as far as their color choices and the stylization of the image. And this was a move closer to abstraction. And then we saw, we see the abstraction getting more and more extreme as modern art progresses. Some of the post-impressionists continue to use optical color mixing, but the intention was not to convey light or use it according to color theory. It was to help the artist evoke an emotion. Yeah, I think I think emotion. I was kind of paused because I think emotion is a little bit too simplistic. There's an effect, right? If you choose a certain color scheme, it'll have a certain effect that you're trying to get across to people. It might have to do with emotion, but it also might just because it looks interesting to you, or it has a certain intensity of it, or I just don't think of happy or sad or etc. with the word emotion. But more emotive, more about getting some more subjective reaction, perhaps. Making an impression of sorts with color that is a little bit outside, or shapes or distortions of the figure maybe that are a little bit beyond what we see optically. Okay, and Van Gogh built up the surface of his paintings with thick brushstrokes, different colors. And they had a relief quality, yeah, like the carving, like they've been carved, or there's or almost like sculpture coming off of a flat surface, because it had just so much texture that you could see when you see them in person. It's pretty amazing. And let's look up some of the unexpected colors making up the skin tone. So let's look closer at this self-portrait. In my opinion, my humble opinion, this is more of an exaggeration of what's really there when you look at skin tones. You do see greens and purples when you look closely at someone's skin when you're doing a portrait of them, and you might choose to really push that to make it come out more, which makes it adds a certain intensity. It makes it interesting to look at, unusual, unique maybe. So this is something a lot of painters have worked with. Some painters are more subtle with it and they make it look more realistic, less stylized, but these colors are actually in our skin. They're visible if you look closely. Greens and mauves and violets and oranges and blues. There's all these different colors that will show up in skin. Okay. The brush strokes are creating a lot of movement too, which is adding to the you can see all the texture, even though this is a photo. In person it would be much more engaging in terms of texture. But yeah, you can still see it with the photo. You can see the light, the way the light is hitting these thick brush strokes, and there's little shadows created because they are thick. Olive trees. Yeah, he's creating these patterns, this movement. You see this going this way, this way, this way. This undulation, which is why he became very well known, just because his uniqueness and rhythm and feeling and motion that he put into his paintings.